In 2013, I was an executive at an international engineering firm in San Francisco.
And that would have been Mazzetti Incorporated, an engineering firm that specializes in building systems infrastructure in the areas of healthcare, science, and education, among others. And our speaker, Melinda Epler, was the Chief Experience Officer back then, wherein a CXO, by common definition, manages the maintenance of positivity between a company and its customers. So, sort of a marketing executive. But I'm only going over these details because our speaker never really gets specific about what it is that she used to do from her example story. But what she does now, and the company that she is CEO of, is very interesting. But we'll get to that shortly.
It was my dream job, a culmination of all the skills that I've acquired over the years. Storytelling, social impact, behavior change. I was the head of marketing and culture, and I work with the nation's largest healthcare systems, using technology and culture change to radically reduce their energy and water use and to improve their social impact. I was creating real change in the world. And it was the worst professional experience of my life.
Really? Wow. Being in charge of things, making real change in the world, and improving people's lives? Well, that sounds great. But then you said it was the worst professional experience of your life. All right, tell us about this intolerable, hostile work environment.
I hit the glass ceiling hard. It hurt like hell.
The glass ceiling? But, what was your job again?
I was the head of marketing and culture.
So, your first job at a multi-million-dollar engineering firm was the head of marketing. And this constituted a glass ceiling. You know, that seems like an awfully high glass ceiling. So, this glass ceiling stopped you from what? Becoming CEO of a company that you'd only just joined? I must be missing something.
While there were bigger issues, most of what happened were little behaviors and patterns that slowly chipped away at my ability to do my work well.
Most of what happened were little behaviors and patterns. So, we're going to be talking about microaggressions. Got it.
They ate away at my confidence, my leadership, my capacity to innovate.
Those all sound like you problems, rather than them problems. But, okay, what exactly was done to you that became so destructive to your self-esteem?
For example, my first presentation at the company. I walk up to the front of the room to give a presentation on the strategy that I believe is right for the company, the one they hired me to create. And I look around the room at my fellow executives, and I watch as they pick up their cell phones and look down at their laptops. They're not paying attention.
Well, maybe you were not an effective speaker back then. Maybe what you were talking about wasn't interesting or relevant to the other executives. But, okay, obviously, you were perfect, and they were in the wrong. Got it.
As soon as I start to speak, the interruptions begin, and people talk over me again and again and again. Some of my ideas are flat out dismissed, and then brought up by somebody else and championed.
Well, I can only take your word for it. But, okay, for the sake of argument, all of that happened just as you describe. Got it. Now, what else?
I was the only woman in that room, and I could have used an ally.
So, not only do you think that you were perfect and everyone else was the problem, but actually, it was the fact that all of the other executives were men, and that was the real problem. And if only there had been a woman there, she would have automatically supported and defended you because vagina? So, you're a sexist. Got it.
Little behaviors and patterns like this every day, again and again, they wear you down. Pretty soon, my energy was absolutely tapped.
Because everyone else was ignoring you and talking over you and stealing your ideas. And only men do those things to women because women would never do those things to other women. Got it.
At a real low point, I read an article about toxic workplace culture and microaggressions.
Ah, yes, microaggressions. How could I have ever guessed?
Microaggressions, everyday slights, insults, negative verbal and nonverbal communication, whether intentional or not, that impede your ability to do your work well.
Whether intentional or not. Now, you see, the or not is the convenient disclaimer which allows anything perceived by the recipient as a slight or insult to actually become a slight or insult. And then they can choose to make their self-manifested hurt feelings become an excuse for performing poorly in their job. Offense is taken, never given. If someone is outright insulting you or harassing you at work, go to human resources. But if you are looking to be insulted by reading between the lines of ambiguous gestures or benign comments, you should instead go to a therapist.
I started to realize that I wasn't failing. The culture around me was failing me.
Yes, you are perfect. It is everyone else who is at fault. Got it.
And I wasn't alone. Behaviors and patterns like this every day affect underrepresented people of all backgrounds in the workplace. And that has a real impact on our colleagues, on our companies, and our collective capacity to innovate.
Our capacity. I thought we were talking about you. Or are you now speaking for everyone else? I'm confused.
So, in the tech industry, we want quick solutions. But there is no magic wand for correcting diversity and inclusion. Change happens one person at a time, one act at a time, one word at a time.
One discriminatory hiring decision at a time.
We make a mistake when we see diversity and inclusion as that side project over there the diversity people are working on, rather than this work inside all of us that we need to do together.
Yes, everyone else is thinking badly and consequently acting badly. Only our speaker knows the true path to salvation.
And that work begins with unlearning what we know about success and opportunity.
Unlearning. Re-education. Got it.
We've been told our whole lives that if we work hard, that hard work pays off. We get what we deserve. We live our dream. But that isn't true for everyone.
You are correct. That is not true for everyone. Because none of us are immune to the curveballs and obstacles that life may throw us. We all have to adapt and make the best of it. And some of us overcome and manage those obstacles better than others. Kind of like how our speaker left her job at the engineering company in early 2015 and went on to found her own companies and organizations. Companies and organizations with a very specific mission in mind. She worked really hard, and now she's doing what she wants to do. and she's the one in charge. And all credit to her for succeeding on her own terms. Which is why I wonder, why isn't she promoting that mindset rather than pushing a victimhood narrative? Well, it could be that victimhood is what drives her business model. But we'll get to that soon.
Some people have to work 10 times as hard to get to the same place due to many barriers put in front of them by society.
Or perhaps barriers put in front of them by their lack of personal merit or just the random circumstances of life. Not every hardship in life is one imposed upon you by others, you know.
Your gender, your race, your ethnicity, your religion, your disability, your sexual orientation, your class, your geography, all of these can give you more or fewer opportunities for success. And that's where allyship comes in.
Right.
Right?
The assumption that certain races, genders, orientations, etc., are all inherent detriments to one's prospects.
Our state director is Indian American, but he does an amazing job.
Allyship means taking an active stance of pity towards those perceived to be inherently disadvantaged because of the arbitrary characteristics of their makeup or situation.
Our director of all constituent services, she's African American, but she does an even more incredible job than you could ever imagine.
And in no way is that perspective discriminatory or condescending. Got it.
Allyship is about understanding that imbalance in opportunity and working to correct it.
No. Allyship is about assuming someone is unable to operate independently based on what they look like or who they sleep with. But by all means, keep on trying to fool yourself into believing that you are doing the moral thing.
Allyship is really seeing the person next to us and the person missing who should be standing next to us. And first, just knowing what they're going through, and then helping them succeed and thrive with us.
Allyship is, to use a phrase, the soft bigotry of low expectations. Got it.
When we work together to develop more diverse and inclusive teams, data shows we will be more innovative, more productive, and more profitable.
What data? Are you going to show us proof of any of these claims anywhere in this presentation? No? Okay.
So, who is an ally? All of us. We can all be allies for each other. As a white cisgendered woman in the United States, there are many ways I'm very privileged, and some ways I'm not.
Wait a second. You are both privileged and not privileged all at the same time. Golly, my head is spinning.
And I work hard every day to be an ally for people with less privilege than me. And I still need allies too.
So you still need the help of others in order to get by. You know, I wonder if our speaker would willingly accept help from men, given that only women can be trusted as allies to other women.
In the tech industry, like in many industries, there are many people who are underrepresented or face barriers and discrimination. Women, people who are non-binary, so people who don't necessarily identify as man or woman. Racial and ethnic minorities, LGBTQIA, people with disabilities, veterans, anybody over age 35.
Ha ha ha, ha ha. Was that meant to be a joke? Because I must have missed the punchline.
We have a major bias toward youth in the tech industry. And many others. There is always someone with less privilege than you on this stage, in this room, at your company, on your team, in your city or town.
Well, wait a second. You just told us that you both are privileged and are not privileged. you have privilege in some areas, but not others. So you're always advantaged in some ways, but disadvantaged in others. Well, golly, that just sounds like, life for most people. Why can't I assume that everyone has their advantages and their disadvantages, regardless of what they look like? Why do you need me to see certain people as entirely helpless?
So, people are allies for different reasons. Find your reason. It could be for the business case, because data shows diverse and inclusive teams will be more productive, more profitable, and more innovative.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
It could be for fairness and social justice, because we have a long history of oppression and inequity that we need to work on together.
Are the people of today thus responsible for the oppressions and inequities of the past, then? Are people who have done no wrong themselves required to redress the wrongs of others? Well, that's an interesting concept. It almost sounds like original sin. Funny, that.
Or it could be for your kids. So your kids grow up with equal opportunities, and they grow up creating equal opportunities for others.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Find your reason. For me, it's all three. Find your reason and step up to be there for someone who needs you.
But I do not have to guess at who needs me. I just need to know what they look like and or what kind of people they have sex with. Even if they never asked for my help, they obviously need it, because what they are means that they are unable to take care of themselves, and what I am means that I'm the only one who has the power to help them. That is what I am to understand about allyship, isn't it?
So, what can you do as an ally? Start by doing no harm.
I have to take the Hippocratic Oath?
It's our job as allies to know what microaggressions are and to not do them.
Sorry. What was your definition of microaggression again?
Everyday slights, insults, negative verbal and nonverbal communication, whether intentional or not.
If microaggressions can be unintentional, if someone chooses to take something you do or say as personally harmful or offensive, regardless of your intentions, how can you ever ensure that you won't do something that someone decides to perceive as a microaggression? You know, I really have to wonder if our speaker understands the kind of stifling social anxiety and paranoia that would be required to follow along with this rule of hers.
It's our job as allies to listen, to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn, and to make mistakes, and to keep learning.
To listen, to learn, to unlearn, to relearn. Wow, sounds like I have to live in a constant state of mental uncertainty. It sounds so very pleasant.
Give me your full attention.
Please clap.
Close your laptops, put down your cell phones, and pay attention. If somebody is new or the only person in the room like them, or they're just nervous, this is going to make a huge difference in how they show up.
Okay, well, in all honesty, I will not argue that there is a time and a place for common respect and politeness at work, whether you are attending a formal presentation or not. But then, I have it on good authority that respect and politeness both perpetuate Islamophobia. So, there is that to consider.
Don't interrupt. Underrepresented people are more likely to be interrupted, so just take a step back and listen.
Certain people are more vulnerable than others to having their feelings hurt, so I need to assess them as requiring special care because of what they look like. And none of that is inherently racist or sexist. Got it.
Echo and attribute. If I have a great idea, echo my idea and then attribute it to me, and we thrive together.
Well, I'm not sure about that. If I echo your idea, and someone else thinks that I've stated it more clearly than you did, they might attribute the refinement of that idea to me, rather than to you. So, it's probably best that I just be quiet, and allow you and your ideas to rise or fall on their own merits. Yes, meritocracy. It is a novel idea, I know.
Learn the language I use to describe my identity. Know how to pronounce my name. Know my pronouns, he, she, they. Know the language I use to describe my disability, my ethnicity, my religion.
Well, I hate to have to be the one to tell you, but you are not the center of my universe in the workplace. Now, if we interact enough that I get to know you on any level beyond the professional, well, so be it. But all of your neuroses and your delicate sensitivities beyond basic professionalism and camaraderie are your problems, not mine.
This really matters to people, so if you don't know, just ask.
No, it really matters to you. Because you need everyone else to conform to what makes you feel the most special and empowered, because having to take responsibility for your own self-esteem and your own self-confidence is a terrifying prospect, isn't it?
An executive told me recently that after doing allyship on his team, the whole team started to normalize calling themselves out and each other out for interrupting. I'm so sorry I'm interrupting you right now. Carry on. Hey, she's got a great idea. Let's listen.
Yes, I can see it now. Walking on eggshells, being a tattletale, trying very hard to be the most considerate person in the room at all times, all the while talking condescendingly to everyone else. Yes, that sounds like a really fun work environment.
Number 2, advocate for underrepresented people in small ways. Intervene. You can change the power dynamics in the room. If you see somebody is the only person in the room like them, and they're being belittled, they're being interrupted, do something. Say something.
Yes. Assume that someone who is different from you cannot speak up for or defend themselves. Also assume that anyone interacting with them in a way that you perceive as disrespectful is thus them discriminating against that person. Got it.
Invite underrepresented people to speak, and say no to panels without underrepresented speakers.
So, you're advising that companies need to play favorites when it comes to who is allowed to speak or who is allowed to sit on a panel based on their race and or gender and or who they like to sleep with. And such a policy would not in any way tempt fate with federal civil rights laws. Got it.
Refer someone for a job and encourage them to take that job and to take new opportunities.
And obviously, I am referring this person for a job based on their personal merits, and not because of what they look like or their orientation, of course.
Of course!
And this one's really important. Help normalize allyship. If you're a person with privilege, It's easier for you to advocate for allies, so use that privilege to create change.
Yes, use your privilege towards changing your workplace culture into one where some people are assessed as being inherently weak and helpless, and others are assessed as inherently powerful and capable, based solely on what they are and not on who they are. Got it.
3, change someone's life significantly. So, be there for somebody throughout their career. Mentor or sponsor them. Give them opportunities as they grow.
And I am choosing to help this particular person because of what they look like, which informs me that they obviously need my help. Got it.
Volunteer. Volunteer for a STEM program serving underserved youth. Transform your team to be more diverse and inclusive, and make real commitments to creating change here. Hold yourself and your team accountable for creating change.
Okay, now I hear that sort of phrase a lot in videos like this, that work leaders need to hold their teams accountable or make others accountable for pushing diversity and inclusion initiatives. And I have always been curious to know what that means exactly. If someone isn't being as ideologically pure as you think they should be when it comes to evaluating the worth of others based on their biological makeup, I do wonder what exactly is the punishment for blasphemy.
And lastly, help advocate for change across your company. When companies teach their people to be allies, diversity and inclusion programs are stronger. You and I can be allies for each other, whether we're inside or outside of work.
Yes. Be an evangelist. Be a missionary. Take the purity of your knowledge and intent to the heathen masses, and bring the good word of diversity to those who aren't even aware that they need it. And by these deeds shall you cleanse your privileged soul of sin and bring the rest of the world ever closer to salvation.
So I realized recently that I still have lingering shame and fear from that moment in my career when I felt utterly alone, shut out, and unsupported.
Okay, all kidding aside for a second. If you are still fearful and ashamed of something that happened to you more than 5 years ago, you really might want to talk to somebody about that.
There are millions of people out there like me right now feeling that way. And it doesn't take much for us to be there for each other. And when we're there for each other, when we support one another, we thrive together. And when we thrive, we build better teams, better products, and better companies.
Okay, now that message, separate from all of the allyship nonsense, is something that I can agree with. Coming to work with the idea that we are all there to succeed and to contribute towards our company's goals is a healthy attitude to have, and that we should all, within reason, help and support each other in that effort is a good work ethic. So, why do we need to include an identity-based cultural hierarchy of the weak versus the strong, the needy versus the wealthy, based on things that have nothing to do with merit? That kind of culture encourages division and discrimination, not unity and not equality.
Allyship is powerful. Try it. Thank you.
I don't think that I will. Thanks. I'm not particularly interested in positioning myself as superior and others inferior on the basis of their race, or their gender, their orientation, or their age, or any of the endless number of other factors that supposedly separate the helpless weak from the privileged strong in the cult of diversity and inclusion. I try to ultimately assess people on who they are, not on what they are. But it is really important that our speaker believe what she is telling us, and that she makes others believe in what she is saying. Because diversity and inclusion is her business. Our speaker is CEO of Change Catalyst, a company that, quote, advises governments, tech hubs, and tech companies on how to build inclusive tech ecosystems, develop diversity and inclusion campaigns, and design effective inclusion strategies around the globe. So, what we have just witnessed is, in effect, a sales pitch. A sales pitch for a solution to a problem. A problem that some people have because of what they are. And that problem is helplessness. It's a sales pitch that she really needs you to buy. But ultimately, she needs to prevent herself from seeing that what she is really advocating for is a sales pitch that she needs to buy as well. Because otherwise, she may indeed be a bad person. And that is something that none of us ever want to think of ourselves. As always, thank you for watching.